Okay, Mr. Bannon. Okay, we'll start right now. Welcome to our online streaming for NFS's 6th anniversary online streaming event. As you know, 6 years passed by so quickly, and we are honored to have you here today. One of our founder, Miles, is still at MDC over 1,100 days. But you are here connecting with millions of NFSC members. What's your thoughts? What's your reflection over the past 6 years, what we have been through together? Sir.
Well, the journey has been, very interesting. Obviously, Miles, who's a hero to most of us and has done a great service, not just to the Lao Beijing and the people in China, but really has done a great service to the American people because he heightened the awareness that wasn't there about the murderous intent of the Chinese Communist Party, not the Chinese people or the nation of China. And I think that Miles will go down in history as a patriot, obviously in China, but also a patriot for the United States of America because he warned the West when he left China. He was doing these videos and talking about corruption. But it was really in that second and third year that I think he really got he really got traction and really came in to his form here in the West, where he was the fire-breathing advocate to say that the Chinese Communist Party had a master plan, not just to become a hegemon in East Asia, but actually use things like Belt and Road and other devices to become a hegemon throughout the world, a dominant global power that would dominate the world. And that the Chinese people would pay the biggest price for that. The second would be the American people. And Miles would always drill into me. It is not China. It's not the Chinese people. They are actually allies of the United States, just like in World War II. It's the Chinese Communist Party that's killed or murdered at least 250 million Chinese people, not including the forced abortions, the 450 million, 80% of those little Chinese girls. So when I look back and think that Miles has been in prison for a number of years. I was put in prison, although only for 4 months. Miles was right. The deep state and the kind of global elite that are in partnership with the Chinese Communist Party will stop at nothing. They'll stop at nothing to, to see the assassination attempts on President Trump, but they'll stop at nothing. And obviously they want Miles to die in prison, which won't happen, but they want that. And so it's been it's been an exciting 4 years. It's 6 years. It's been an incredible journey. It's also been very tough. And I go back and think about Miles, the scene where we went up to do we would do 2 big things together annually every year. He would come on the show all the time. I would come on, obviously, GTV and the New Federal States, broadcast. But we would do the 4 June commemoration of those great patriots in Tiananmen Square. We'd also do the Chinese New Year's, where we would kick off with a couple of days of 24-hour coverage, of which I would sit there with Miles and be there for half of it while Miles and the team did stay up all night. And I remember in 2020 and going up there, and the first night, Bill Gertz, myself, everybody's up there for the dinner, and Miles goes, "Hey, we're actually not gonna have the broadcast tomorrow." And I go, "Why is that?" He says, "Well, there's not gonna be a Chinese New Year's." And I go, "Why is this?" This is like 14 or 15 January. And he goes, "Because there's not gonna be a Chinese New Year's because of a virus that's coming out of Wuhan, a biological weapon that the CCP have let off, and it's gonna spread throughout the country and the world. It's gonna change everything. And we're not gonna do it because we're not gonna have a Chinese New Year's." And I said, "Has that ever happened in 10,000 years?" He goes, "No." So it's been a long journey. It's been a great journey. We're closer to victory today than we were 6 years ago, although I know sometimes it looks like we're still farthest away from victory, but that's not the case. I can tell you that people here in the United States are more focused on the CCP being an enemy than ever before, and particularly with this artificial intelligence, it's gotten everybody focused. So I want to thank you, the entire team, everybody. It just seems like yesterday that we were out on the boat and out on the Miles's boat, and then also the utility boat of which we went out with Hank and actually shot most of this and some of the most dramatic footage of all. So been quite a ride.
Thank you so much. I still remember vividly during one year's Spring Festival broadcasting, you and Miles sit next to each other when he and you shout out, taking down the CCP, like 7-10 times. That's so inspiring. For the past 6 years, I really want to thank you for your unwavering support and your not giving up and keep fighting for this hard war against the CCP. Thank you so much for with us today. And next, I will ask Ava to ask a couple questions.
So thank you first. This is a special day as we, sit here celebrating the 60th.
Hey, Ava, your microphone just went off.
Yeah. Oh. Is it better now?
Okay, yeah. Good. That's okay.
So as we celebrate the 6 years anniversary, as you just outlined, you brought down us to the memory lane and highlighted so many extraordinary moments, because the memories are built by all those, memories and moments. So I wanted to bring you back to the 6 years ago where Forrest just mentioned about you and Miles was standing on Lady May near the New York Harbor. That day, if you remember that day, right before the actual ceremony starts, you're already on the broadcasting, and there's storms. There are heavy rain pour down to the harbor area. And then Miles went to pray briefly. And what happened is the clouds dissipates and the sun breaks out. And later on, when he and you were standing there and reading the declaration of the new federal state of China, and he made the blood oath. And the time that when he did that, the lightning, stroke out right behind the Statue of Liberty. And you were right there witnessing history. And all of us, that live stream was watched by 400 million. Can you believe that? 400 million around the world. So, and it had a lasting impression and effect on people. Not only people supporting us, including our enemies, including the CCPs. So why do you think that's the case?
Well, first off, let's go back to that time. Remember, that was the first 6 months of the pandemic. The United States was essentially shut down, but this is something only Miles could pull off. Because Miles says, I said, now, how are we going to do this? Because, Miles will have these ideas, and he and I worked on them. He goes, we're going to take over New York Harbor, and we're going to be off the Statue of Liberty, and we're going to launch the utility boat, and we're going to look back over to the Lady May, and we're going to do all these shots, and we're going to have the camera. Hank's going to do the camera. And I go, Miles, first off, New York Harbor is like the second biggest harbor in back of Hong Kong in the world. It's got traffic. We're not going to just be able to we're just not going to be able to sit there and have a beautiful shot on. He goes, yes, we will. And he goes, then we're going to fly banners over on planes. And I go, Miles, ever since 9/11, it's a super secure area. This can't happen. Miles goes, I've got this. Don't worry about it. This is what's going to happen. So we go to the Lady May, we get on the utility. I go at the Lady May. I'm looking around. The harbor is empty. It has not been empty since the Dutch arrived 300 years ago. Miles Guo, and this is why he's such a special guy, he was able to basically secure, because he went to people and said, hey, look, we're going to launch an alternative to the Chinese Communist Party, and we're going to have hundreds of millions of people watching this, and I want to do it because just like at Tiananmen, which we're commemorating the heroes in Tiananmen, the goddess of liberty, I want to show people the Statue of Liberty. I want to show it with nothing blocking it. And the American officials kind of said, sure, they work with Miles. We had the entire harbor. Then Miles has planes going by with banners. They're flying by the Chinese consulate, right, saying new federal state, take down the CCP. And they're calling up they're calling up the State Department, and they're calling up the embassy in DC, and people are saying, well, you can't do it. It's Miles Guo. He's done it. It was extraordinary. Then you talk about the weather. These clouds start coming. As New York, it's in June, it's thunderstorms. They're coming in late in the afternoon. And because we're trying to time it perfectly for sunrise in Beijing. And so we're on the 3rd, and the clouds, it's raining. And when I say it's raining, it's a squall. We're in the middle of a huge rainstorm. And Miles goes, don't worry, I've got this. And Miles goes to part of the boat and starts praying. And I go, what is Miles doing here? And he comes back and says, I just prayed. It's going to clear up. And it cleared up. and it was, the sun came through. It was absolutely beautiful. So Miles, I think, has a direct connection to God, because that day was just very special. And you could tell Miles was so moved as we both read. We had the declaration announcing the foundation of the new federal state. I would read part, and then Miles would read part. He was so moved at the end. That's where he took a blood oath and bit the tip of his finger, bled, and put it onto the document itself. And I believe strongly it wasn't the broadcast he had done, the YouTube broadcast. It wasn't anything. I believe in that moment, the Chinese Communist Party realized that we have to either assassinate Miles Guo, we have to imprison him. And remember, Miles's work later on the laptop from hell was monumental to get that out to a world audience. And we know that the Biden regime with the CIA and others had the phony charge that was Russian disinformation, and what Miles was doing was Russian disinformation. What Rudy and I were doing, we now know that's all a lie. But I think that's when they became the deep state with the Chinese Communist Party said that Miles Guo is such an extraordinary historical figure that if we don't figure this out quickly, this new federal state will be as big as the Chinese Communist Party. And we have to stop that. And I think that's why Miles is in prison today.
What you just described to us, and thank you for, because you're the witness. You were there that day, and we watching you and Miles from afar. I remember I was in my basement and I was all in tears. And when I see the lightning, I couldn't believe my eyes, because that's a perfect moment. To me, for us, a lot of us, we have faith, we believe in God. And I realize that moment, both of you, with the lightning behind you. And it's very peaceful lightning. It's not like a thunder or a scary one. It's very beautiful, actually. And I see that is providence. That's a divine message. And this mission, as you said, after so many years of hardship, we're still in the darkest moment. We're close to victory. But thank you for people like you. And Miles, you're magnificent. You're extraordinary. And look at you, the work that you've done, and your commitment to the Laobaixing, the Chinese Laobaixing, for their fight and pursuit for freedom and dignity and human rights. And we couldn't say more thank you on this special day as we, remember, in solemn remember of those martyrs back in 37 years ago.
Your words are very kind, but I've got the easiest job in the world working with people like yourself and Lao Baizhang, and of course, Miles Guo. I think for the Chinese, for one of the things he's done for the American people is to help us focus on what the problem is, the Chinese Communist Party, not China, and definitely not Lao Baizhang, who historically have been our ally and are still our ally. What I think Miles has done for the Chinese people is very profound and fundamental. Miles has said the greatest crime of the Chinese Communist Party is try to eradicate the deep spirituality of the Chinese people and take it out and make it a totally atheistic system based upon man. That goes counter to how Chinese civilization has been. And I think Miles has brought that up to this is why it sounded so spiritual that day. Well, Miles always keeps this kind of very calm demeanor. Things can be going crazy, and Miles is very calm and very centered. And that day, he was very centered. As these things start to come through, and you're right, they're providential, and you can feel the Holy Spirit working through Miles. And I think what he did in that entire day, what he did to reinforce is that, hey, we are made in the image and likeness of God. We are spiritual beings. This is a spiritual war. Forrest, you did a great job today on our show talking about the great awakening that led to the American Revolution. I think what Miles was trying to do in kicking off and going into exile first from China, coming to the United States and forming a new federal state, and particularly doing on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square, was to be a great awakening for Lao Baizhang, to say, hey, since 1949, they have done everything, including murdering a quarter of a billion of you in concentration camps, starving to death, Cultural Revolution, Great Leap Forward, the Great Famine, and the 450 million abortions, 80% of those being little Chinese girls. They've done everything to dehumanize you. They've done everything to separate you from God. They've attacked every religion. They've tried to destroy every religion because they have to be the gods. They have to be the religion. And it's so it's so not fulfilling. And this is one of the reasons of this issue that Chinese people have about their task and purpose. Miles's number one objective was to have a great awakening, understanding that people in the West can't overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. The people on Wall Street, the United States military, the United States, NATO, the only people that can overthrow the Chinese Communist Party is Lao Beijing, the Chinese people. It is their task and purpose. And before you get to that part of it, you have to have a great awakening of exactly what you are and what you stand for. And I think that is what Miles, his great gift has been to the Chinese people, to fight every day to remind them of that. And that's why if you go back and look at that tape, you can look at those for hours. I mean, this is what Miles was preaching on the very day that we launched this 6 years ago.
Thank you so much, Steve. Now I hand back to Forrest.
Okay, Steve, I know you, Miles is the person of action. And again, with you together is a man of action, because of your bravery and because of your hard working, now the American people is awakening. Now, compared to 6 years ago, how much better the American people realize the threat from CCP, and how much more we need to do, or if there is any lessons we need to tell American people, what is that before everything becomes too late?
It's a great question. I think the American people, no, we're in much better position today with the American people. You look at any polling data or just go out and talk to people. They understand the Chinese Communist Party is a existential threat. They answer that in polls all the time. They understand it's an existential threat to the Chinese people. That's the good news. I think the population in China, because of your broadcast, New Federal State, getting into VPNs, the message of Miles Guo has definitely gotten there and touched people's hearts. On that regard, I think we're doing better than I actually thought we would be doing. Okay, I think that's great news. What I think the bad news is that the global elites, particularly the tech, what I call the tech oligarchs, more than ever don't want to decouple. Remember, one of Miles's basic concepts and what he taught us was you have to decouple these economies because number one, they want to decouple. So you got to beat them to the punch. You have to decouple because you're not helping the Chinese people until you do. The tech oligarchs, particularly in this age of artificial intelligence, want to have a closer bond with the Chinese Communist Party than ever. You saw this on President Trump's recent visit. I mean, 25 American businessmen, Tim Apple, right, with everything. And if people have not read the book, Apple in China, it's disgusting, right? You had Elon Musk, whose mother hangs out with Bruno Wu's wife in Shanghai, and has become like a TV personality. You have all the Wall Street, Schwartzman, Larry Fink, this entire group that just wants to have more access to the Chinese Communist Party. So in that regard, we have to be realistic, and particularly if you look at when the Chinese Communist Party announced Made in China 2025, remember, Made in China 2025, 10 years ago, if you take a look at those first 4 or 5 industries, artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence, robotics and regenerative robotics, quantum computing, advanced chip design, and CRISPR or biotechnology. If you take all 5 of those as one entity driving to a point, that is going to lead us to the singularity. And the West continues to finance all the Chinese operations in those areas and give them much of the technology. So this hurtling towards this convergence point of where Homo sapiens is on one side and Homo sapien 2.0 is on the other, the Chinese Communist Party have an active partner in tech and Wall Street and global corporations. And so whereas the people on a populist side are making, I think, more connections and understand the evils of this, and it must be stopped. And they're going to be the victims, both Lao Beijing and working class people in the United States. At the elite level, it's actually getting more concentrated. And that's the big fight. You see it here in data centers. You hear it with AI. This is going to be the big fight. The big fights will be about decoupling scientifically and decoupling on a technological basis. And this is where this is going to happen. And of course, Xi, understanding he has massive economic pressures. He also has military pressures. This is why he has this continuing purging of the PLA. Taiwan sits in the middle of that. And so I think although we've made tremendous progress in 6 years, I do believe the darkest days of this effort are definitely before us, not behind us. And so, and I say that with Miles being in prison now for the last couple of years. So for all the new federal state folks, I don't want to sound, I'm not a doomer. I'm a realist, and all I focus on is victory. I know Miles's victory begets victory, but I think the reality is we have some very dark days ahead of us.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But again, as we just told everybody, if we are blessed by God, if I'm looking at the independent war, everything started with the very weakness country, the new country versus very powerful England. But at the end, after 7-8 years hard war, we win. I think the freedom will eventually win. I 100% believe that, especially this year is 250 years anniversary. Okay.
So I really, so what you just shared with us, it's reality. So that makes more urgent to finish the CCP, because we already know CCP, there's gazillions amount of companies, but people viewing them from the Western lens. They thought, oh, these are independent, Western corporate. They have different legal structures and belonging to different owners. But no, people don't understand. These belong to one party, one corporation. It's called CCP, Inc., period. And it's controlled by 5 factions, just a handful, kleptocrats, families. So if those technology, as you pointed to, although they have a potential to advance humanity, but in the hands of evil, in the hands of Satan, they're going to do a great damage to humanity. So that's more urgent. So we wanted to convey that message to the West. And the Chinese people are ready, the new federal state of China, and our supporters from mainland China, they can't wait. If there's another June 4th, 1989 today, the CCP going to be so down, okay? Because people are going to rush onto the street, and we're going to have the media, we're going to have you, we're going to have everybody zoom in, and CCP will be done. So these tech brothers, but think about it, what's going to come when the CCP collapse? So I thank you for the warning. So we're going to work together even harder to end the Chinese Communist Party. So here, I do want to ask you a question, because we see a lot of sanctions from the U.S. Treasury Department. These are good. But we feel like I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because as I shared with you, in the Chinese Communist Party, they control everything. They have the state resources. Once you're targeting this company, they pop up another share company. It's so easy. They put actors there. They even go to Pakistan, which is so close to them right now. They call them Iron Brotherhood. So they can do all those things and play a long game. So how effective do you think those, sanctions targeting individual entities going to work if they don't targeting the CCP? Go ahead.
It's not strong enough. Look, one thing I think is happening is that the global control of oil is coming much more inside the control of the United States, from Venezuela to Guyana, obviously the Persian Gulf. I mean, we kind of dictate Straits of Malacca now, the partnership with Indonesia. We dictate where the world's oil is going to go. And so that is a huge strategic advantage with all the screw ups of this war, all that is in Venezuela. And we also have now taken control of the Panama Canal. We're trying to take control of the Arctic. These are all very, very positive developments geostrategically, geoeconomically, and geopolitically. However, we have to go back to, once again, the lessons of Miles Guo. I would come on his shows. He would come on War Room all the time. This is before 2020. This is in 2018 and 2019. And Miles would hammer about supply chains and rare earths. He would constantly say that everything, like even the medicines that we get, right, with nothing made in the United States, no generics. He would hammer that the CCP has done a strategic focus on the supply chains and to make sure that they're at the railhead of controlling the supply chains, and particularly rare earths. In addition to supply chains, rare earths. They've taken these two and they think they've got these when times get tough. Absolutely. President Trump's tariffs and Liberation Day, and the Chinese Communist Party was back on their heels. They never thought anybody would hit them with the tariffs that President Trump hit them with. And then all of a sudden, rare earths and supply chains. And Miles's warning from 5 years before had not been heeded by anybody. Now, Peter Navarro and people who are advocates of Miles's thought are taking the lead, and we're starting to get the rare earth situation worked out. We're starting to get the supply chain, even though we got a warning of that in 2020. Miles gave it to us in 18 and 19, and then in 2020 on the medicine. So Miles has given us a roadmap of the confrontation and to be able to take down the CCP. Number one, we have the political will here, but you don't have the corporations, you don't have Wall Street, you don't have the tech bros on your side, but we're working that through as a people. And I think that you're seeing in this rare earth situation, the supply chain, that we're making great progress. And I think Miles, well, I know Miles will be very proud of the efforts we made, but the sanctions themselves are nowhere where they should be. And quite frankly, we've had to back off even the tariffs. I do think that is, all going to change. President Trump went over very magnanimously and to Beijing. It was very complimentary of Xi and very complimentary of what they were trying to put together. And she starts off with Thucydides' trap, that you're the declining power, we're the rising power, and you got to get away. I mean, really on global television, I mean, the Great Hall in that magnificent setting, right after you came out off of Tiananmen Square with that really, I think, very impressive and moving military pass and review. As soon as they get up the red carpet and everybody gets in there, President Trump spends 15 minutes just saying how great she is and how they want to work together. And these are two great people and we have to do it. And she just bang, Thucydides' trap. You're the old declining power. We're the rising power. Old declining power has got to stand out of the way so you don't make some mistake that leads us to a catastrophic war. Because we, the Chinese Communist Party, don't want a catastrophic war, because in a catastrophic war, we would lose. And we know that. So gave a warning to President Trump right there. And I think President Trump sat there and goes, okay, I see where this guy's going. And I think you've seen all the actions President Trump has taken since then has been fairly confrontational, right? I think President Trump got the message that she was sending. And I think now, quite frankly, I think more than ever, the leadership of President Trump's administration understands, Pete Hegseth just went to, I think, Singapore yesterday, understands better than ever that the Chinese Communist Party is a threat to the nations in the region, is a threat to Japan, is a threat to the Chinese people, and definitely a threat to the citizens of the United States.
Sir, I have a quick question, because for the past more than 3 years, Miles is in prison right now, still at MDC. We have been through a lot. Just like I remember, we went to Florida for Club 47 for your speech. I remember you said after 2020 election, there's a lot of people quit the group, left the group. Same thing happened with us. So what's your message to the fighters still loyal to NFSC? What's your message to the traitors?
That Miles was one of the most unique individuals in history. And I think personally, if you look at the trial and what people came up with, remember, he was found innocent of like half the charges, right? If you look at the other charges and the people that came forward and what they testified to, if you go back and look at the transcripts and compare that to what Miles had done and Miles had accomplished, Miles is one of the greatest leaders in modern history. I don't think there's any doubt about that. No doubt in my mind. And I know them all and deal with them. And so I would say to the new federal state that the people in the new federal state, you've made a smart bet being associated with Miles and his effort, and that we're ultimately gonna overcome the speed bumps that have been put in our way. And Miles is still a great leader, and what he's particularly preached about the power of Lai Beijing, the spiritual power of the Chinese people, and quite frankly, the dictatorship of the Chinese Communist Party, and exposed Wall Street, Silicon Valley, the global American corporations, Great Britain, London, the city of London, all of it, and the imperial capital in Washington, D.C., exposed them as hypocrites for being in business with this murderous dictatorship. I think stand the test of time. I recommend that everybody, even those that maybe when Miles first, got arrested, went to prison, said, "Oh, the world's over, I can't do this," is to redouble your efforts and come back and join new federal state again, because we're on the not just the righteous side, the side of righteousness and the angels. We're winning this and we're going to win. There's no doubt. I would not put any time in this at all if I didn't think it was a righteous cause. I didn't think it was the right thing to do, and I didn't think we were going to win. And I think in this case, all three of those are true.
So much. I think history will tell us we are on the righteous side. And also if the CCP is not fair for us and you, they won't sanction you, and they won't change the Pangu building, the dragon head to a flat head. Okay.
So Steve, I wanted just to check how many time do you have left? Do you
just a few, till about 5 more minutes.
So maybe I ask you a question. So this is to do with a recent post that President Trump just sent out. And it said about something, he quoted a report, said about something about exodus of legal talent. And he said, that's a great thing. Okay, I fire them. They didn't resign. I fire them. We should do more of those. This is good for the country. And when we reflect that, what he said, basically we believe that United States is a different setup. You're blessed by a God, and people has the opportunity to participate in elections. You can, holding people accountable. You still can have, the rule of law and justice system left, so you can fight against tyranny and injustice. But in China, as we observed now and then, 37 years ago, those armless, peaceful protest has been brutally cracking down. And today, even the CCP has been attacking us nonstop and putting Miles Guo in the prison using the weaponized justice system. So I wanted to know I want you to speak to the Chinese Lao Baixing.
I think that's, listen, let's go back to the thing of President Trump, the 10,000. Miles Guo has been in prison twice. He was in prison once after Tiananmen Square for his efforts and his brother's efforts in being part of the revolutionaries that were trying to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party and bring freedom to the Chinese people. He was arrested shortly thereafter and spent many years in prison. He's in prison now also because of the CCP. What President Trump said is very positive from Miles's point of view and from those of us who are trying to get freedom for the American people, sustain it, defeat the deep state, but also get freedom for the Chinese people. The 10,000 lawyers, just think about it for a second. We have 2.5 million civilians in the federal government of the United States, 2.5 million. The Justice Department, I think alone, has something like 60 to 75,000 when you count up everybody in the Justice Department. A corrupt Justice Department. For years, remember, people were taking money, Higginbotham, people were paid, $40 million. There was money going back and forth for employees at the Justice Department and working with others to try to extradite Miles to China, back to the CCP, so he'd be in prison or killed immediately, disappeared. This is an open secret. This has now been in federal court about all of this on many cases. When you say 10,000 lawyers are gone, it's probably 25,000 throughout the entire government that I want gone, because many of those are the ones that are bought and paid for by the CCP. Miles Guo is in prison right now because of Chinese Communist Party infiltration into the American political system, and particularly into the weaponization. This is one of the reasons I went to prison. They tried to put me in prison the first time, less than 60 days after I was on the boat in the harbor in August of 2020. I was arrested right then. They want to put me in jail and 100% is the reason. And one of the things that helped me is that afternoon I walked out and there were 1,000 Lao Baixing standing there in Lower Manhattan supporting me. And that is, I said right then, you can't defeat the Chinese people. They've had so many travails and trials put in front of them, but you can't beat them. This was the forgotten man and woman there. The little guy was there, 1,000 of them, when I came out of the courthouse that day, because remember, it was the pandemic, so everything was shut down. Everybody was in mask. I ripped my mask off because I refused to wear the thing, given what the pandemic was trying to do to us. But Miles is in prison because of this. So 10,000, and President Trump tweeting out, hey, this is good because we're cleaning it out. We have to clean much more of it out. I think this is why eventually we will get justice for Miles Guo, because we're going to remove all the corrupt and evil lawyers that are with the Justice Department. And for those of people that are part of the new federal state, but for those maybe have had other things to do or haven't come back yet, I would just read your efforts, just read about all the trials of Miles Guo, of everything they try to do to him, of guys like Higginbotham that took $40 million to extradite him, of all the business leaders that came to President Trump and tried to extradite him, of the billionaire, what they call the whale over in Thailand, who was was touched by the Chinese Communist Party's overseas Chinese, that was going to give $25 million to people to extradite Miles Guo. The track record of trying to extradite Miles Guo is unbelievable. Spread with Chinese money and corrupt Western officials to do that. So no, when I see President Trump saying 10,000, I want 20 or 25,000, because of those 2.5 million, 500,000 are either lawyers or somebody who have legal training in all the different aspects of the U.S. government. So to know that they leave means that we're getting rid of the bad ones, and we're going to have to get rid of the bad ones to eventually free Miles Guo.
So I want you to say to those people still inside the CCP system right now, still helping Xi Jinping hang on to their power. And I know your words are sword, so it's going to hurt them. And I wanted you to say what's coming for them.
Well, number one, what you're doing is wrong, because you're oppressing one of the greatest civilizations, oldest civilization in the world, and one of the greatest civilizations and some of the greatest people in the world. You've oppressed the Chinese people, and particularly the best of the Chinese people, which is Lao Baijing, the common man and woman, which is really the heart and soul of China. You know what you do every day, and you're doing it for monetary reward that will only pay off in this life. You've got to take a longer picture of eternal life. If you take the longer picture of eternal life, immediately you have to turn against the regime. The regime is even against Hitler and Stalin. It's the most murderous regime ever. And remember, with Hitler and Stalin, in many cases, it wasn't simply their own people, but other people they murdered. The Chinese Communist Party track record is $250 million minimum of their own people. They've starved to death. They've put in concentration camps. They've tortured to death. You look at the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward, the Great Famine, all of it. On top of that, you take the forced abortions, which we now know was wrong and has caused a major demographic problem in China, because once again, not only are they corrupt, they're also incompetent. So they murdered, basically slaughtered 450 million Chinese babies, 80% of whom were little girls. And this is one of the reasons you have such social problems in China right now, with this total imbalance that's never happened in human history anywhere, this imbalance of men to women. Everything they touch, they corrupt. Miles Guo's lesson was quite simply, everything they touch, they will corrupt, because they are fully evil and the most murderous dictatorship in the world. And this is why you can't forgive people in the West. And I don't. You can't forgive Wall Street. You can't forgive the giant corporations. Most importantly, the tech oligarchs. And this is what makes them so dangerous, particularly the Elon Musk of the world, that work with guys like Bruno Wu. Is that they are very dangerous, because the technologies they are working on are the most advanced technologies in the world. So I would just tell anybody in the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party, is get out as soon as you can and turn to the side of light, right? The side of the angels, the side of God, and work for the righteous, and work for a righteous cause. And the righteous cause is very simple: freeing Lao Baijing, freeing the Chinese people from this brutal dictatorship.
So much.
Thank you so much. That's why we love you, and they hate you into gut. So thank you for your generous time and for this program. And we want to have you more, but we know you have other busy things. So happy anniversary as the co-founder of a new federal state of China. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much.
And you guys have a great show. And Forrest, thank you so much today. Your words about the great awakening that happened before our revolution, and it's happening now in China with the Chinese people, were very touching, very moving, and very smart. Miles Guo would be very proud of what you guys are doing. So thank you guys so much.